Hi, I'm Michael Costa. A dangerous killer is terrorizing Florida, but not in the fun way that ends up in a Netflix documentary. The Burmese python. Jesus, change it back. Change it. Ugh.
Florida's expansive wetlands are being stalked by a stealthy predator with lethal accuracy. A predator that is not a python, but a much more lethal attacker that is capable of running on land and hiding in the water. Could it be that the Everglades have been claimed by an animal that causes hundreds of human fatalities every year in Africa? More shocking than fiction, this apex predator was able to live undetected for several years, crowded out of its habitat by native wildlife. This is not merely the story of an invasive species, but evidence that the wetlands of Florida may prove to be as hazardous and as foreign as they are to too many people. But what if the predator lurking in Florida isn't just another gator? Could it be something far deadlier? A night encounter in Florida. It was a black night in March 2012 in Homestead, Florida, when a patrol crew swept a halogen beam over the water in the Everglades. The beam reflected off a pair of ghostly eyes. It was a clear indicator that a nocturnal animal was stalking its surroundings in the darkness. Usually, the color reflected off the beam will reveal which predator lies in wait below, a fiery alligator or a paler American crocodile. On this particular night, however, the distance between the eyes and the size of the cranium indicated a monster unlike anything that lived in this ecosystem. The team was prepared for a fix on a pesky gator when they carefully made their way into the water. What happened next was nearly unimaginable. It did not swim under the water like an alligator or an American crocodile on the hunt. It jumped onto the mudflat instead, sprinted forward, raised its belly off the ground, and reached a pace of 14 kilometers per hour on land. It was an incredible sight that no large reptile in the area could achieve. By the time the two officers made it to the shore, the animal had disappeared into the sawgrass. This occurrence was categorized in the report as a bizarre anomaly and probably a misidentification. The truth remained deep within assumptions for several years. But 4 years after the incident, the tissue samples obtained that night were tested at the University of Florida's genetics laboratory. The DNA analysis blew away previous assumptions. It was neither an American alligator nor an American crocodile. Its DNA code led 7,000 miles back to the Okavango Delta in Botswana. Florida did not have another alien invader on its hands, but something much more extraordinary and terrifying, as a stealthily quiet invasion had been taking place in Florida for over a decade. This marked the beginning of a new era in the Everglades. The Everglades is no ordinary wilderness. It is a precisely crafted battlefield that evolved over millions of years. For many decades, two top predators and two well-demarcated territories maintained just that. But finding an individual that defied these norms was nothing short of sensational and terrifying. The alligator, which looks like a chunky, armored warrior, dominates the freshwater sawgrass marshes with a bone-crushing bite powerful enough for tortoises and other hardy animals. In contrast, the American crocodile dominates coastal areas as well as brackish habitats. American crocodiles are stealthy fish eaters and are so secretive that no human has ever been harmed by an American crocodile in the United States. Both species occupied their own distinct territories. For many years, both species coexisted harmoniously within the ever-evolving swamp ecosystem. It was not until the mid-2000s that sport fishermen and game hunters noticed some unusual happenings. Many of the places where basking American crocodiles used to regularly congregate had recently cleared out. Most basks died out, but not all of them, and their food source remained unaffected as well. It seemed the crocodilians had been displaced. Something had taken over their space. A new power had emerged in the swamp ecosystem. Something deep within the swamp ecosystem hinted to researchers that this was a precursor to a change in the swamp's natural order. There were two biological implications of this event. Researchers were diligently identifying additional problems and related issues, primarily attributing the loss of the regional fauna to Burmese pythons. The account of large, dark, iguana-like creatures that were behaving erratically and extraordinarily large crocodilians was buried out of confusion. Unlike alligators, such creatures did not bask in the sun lazily nor withdraw easily into the water. They trailed boats, displayed a raised posture in the water, and also exhibited other behavior that portended intent and intelligence. Something new had established itself, languid in the shadows while the spotlight shone on pythons and other newsworthy invaders. The awkward silence that ensued over such sightings would ultimately be replaced with hard biological data. A much more ominous presence lurked in the canals, a new set of rules being written in the Everglades. But what if this hidden predator wasn't bound by old rules? Could it challenge both alligator and crocodile dominance unseen? The Everglades ecosystem at war. This delicate and rare ecosystem in the Everglades has long flourished in a balance that was maintained by two top predators that are reptiles, the powerful alligator and the rare crocodile. These two animals occupied different territories that ensured that there was no direct competition between them. The alligator rules the freshwater swamps with armored skin and powerful jaws designed in such a way as to be able to crush very resilient prey. They were feared and respected as the brutes of the swamp. The American crocodile, on the other hand, lives in the coastal areas of brackish water. They are stealthier in order to be able to sneak and feed on fish and hide from potential threats. They are less aggressive and pose no threat at all to human beings. This peaceful coexistence in occupied territories ensured that the two animals survived for millions of years, with evolution properly adjusting their behaviors. American crocodiles are timid and rare, staying in a very congested area around protected areas such as the cooling canals in the Turkey Point nuclear power plant. However, this balance began to break down in the early 2000s. The local fishermen and residents of the area around Silver Bluff Creek noticed a chilling shift. Crocodiles that had sunned themselves for decades were disappearing from their favorite spots without any apparent reason. These are not dead, disintegrated crocodiles, which would be a sign of some major disruption, but displaced, possibly chased out of the sweetest spot, an indicator of another, more invasive species being present. The initial cause was thought to be the Burmese python invasion, which was certainly decimating Florida's mammalian fauna. These gigantic constrictors changed the ecosystem in the swamp by devouring raccoons, opossums, bobcats, and much more. When the pythons disturbed the already troubled food chain with their consumption of lower-level fauna, there was certainly potential for an indirect ripple effect for water predators. Meanwhile, the descriptions of the dark, aggressive reptiles also failed to match the expected descriptions of either the pythons or the local alligators in the area. The observed animals did not sun themselves in the open or act in a passive manner. However, they displayed stalking and aggressive tracking behavior that would be quite unexpected for the dominant denizens in the swamp area. Still, biologists believed the data portrayed a misconception with a bias in cognition. They saw only what they could categorize under prevailing assumptions. However, the bodies found by the canals had a different tale to reveal. Smaller reptiles were found to have been killed not by constriction, as with a python, but by what came to be known as the death roll. This indicated that they were killed by violent spinning movements applied to dismember. The bite radius lacked the proportion indicated by an alligator, while it lacked enough aggression to have come from an American crocodile. These suspicions crystallized into form in 2009, when herpetologists from the University of Florida caught a juvenile crocodile in the Miami Canal system. Small, yet something about this specimen immediately caused a sense of unease, a biological uncanny valley, in which familiarity is shadowed by something wrong. Under close examination, its physical traits and behavior defied known classifications, signaling the arrival of a predator unlike any other that had been encountered in Florida. Unraveling this crocodile's true identity would upend everything scientists knew about predators in the Everglades and confirm that a new, dangerous contender now ruled these waters. But what exactly lurked in the canals? An undiscovered species, a mutation, or something even more sinister waiting to strike? Unraveling the predator's identity. The juvenile seized in 2009 offered key scientific breakthroughs and utter confusion. Its narrow, V-shaped snout immediately aligned it with crocodiles, in contrast to the wider, rounder snouts of the local alligators. Yet, its anatomy carried glaring anomalies. The dorsal armor, comprised of bony plates known as osteoderms or scutes, followed strict geometric patterns unlike the haphazard patterns adorning Florida's Native American crocodiles. This precision spoke of an evolutionary template, unlike any documented in the region. More unsettling, however, was the creature's disposition. Whereas American crocodiles generally thrash for a while before settling into a catatonic state to conserve energy, this specimen fought with mindless aggression bordering on frenzy. Rather than hissing, it let out a low-frequency growl seldom, if ever, heard in Florida waters. An acoustic warning that alarmed researchers. Such ferocity implied genetic distinctions far beyond ordinary mutation or environmental influence. Biologists studied hybridization as a theory. It was impossible to hybridize alligators and crocodiles because these two species diverged 70 to 80 million years ago. However, there was evidence for interspecific crocodile copulation. There was initial theorizing about a combination of an American crocodile and another species in Central America, which could give birth to a crocodile with a volatile level of aggression and chimeric characteristics. However, the theory never really added up until hard facts were established. For almost 2 years, more creatures were caught and researched, showing a rate of growth that was almost 28% faster than local crocodiles. Consequently, they grew reproductively faster, larger, and more dominant over the swamp's ecosystem, thanks to a deadly competitive advantage. Tissue samples were sequenced for the mitochondrial cytochrome B gene, a marker that identifies species and traces ancestry. To confirm the species, scientists expected matches to Central American or Caribbean lineages, but results shocked them. The genetic profiles matched exactly with Nile crocodiles, apex African predators of infamous killing prowess. The revelation reimagined Florida's newest predator. American crocodiles are specialist fish eaters that are shy and reclusive and have never killed people. Nile crocodiles, in contrast, are opportunistic generalists responsible for approximately 200 human fatalities annually across Africa. They regard everything entering their domain as possible prey, rendering Florida's waterways far more dangerous. Further investigation pegged the genetic fingerprint to a subgroup of Nile crocodiles native to the South African province of KwaZulu-Natal. The only logical explanation was human involvement. Private collectors, most probably imported hatchlings or juveniles during the late 1990s, nurtured the animals as pets until they became unmanageable, and then released or let them escape. Slipshod quarantine regulations regarding exotic pets allowed the ecological disaster to unfold. Genetics then confirmed the identity, and researchers correlated capture dates. The 2009 hatchling and related subadults from 2012 and 2014 were proven siblings. This validated that a breeding population was established in Florida's canals, and that an estimated reproducing adult pair had to have arrived in the state around 1998 or 2000. Nearly a decade and a half had passed, with these apex predators evading detection as they thrived through hurricanes, cold snaps, and even the python invasion. A haunting question lingers. The original adult breeders were never found. Statistically, the adults that could endure and reproduce for more than a decade are still at large in the Everglades. Such giants have defied every odd, and they continue to watch, wait, and silently assert a reign in Florida's swamps, a lot more dangerous than anyone has been thinking. With the identity of the predator confirmed, attention turned to the implications of its presence and what it means for Florida's native species and human safety going forward. But what if these predators aren't just surviving? They're evolving. Could a new, unstoppable hybrid rise from Florida's swamps unnoticed? Hybridization and future threats. A looming concern for biologists is the threat of hybridization between invasive Nile crocodiles and Native American crocodiles. Though distinct species, they are genetically close enough to interbreed, a process little considered until the Nile crocodile's introduction forced their habitats into closer proximity. Captive breeding programs have shown that related crocodile species can produce hybrids that eclipse either parent in size, strength, and aggression, raising alarms about what might happen in the wild. Hybrid vigor, or heterosis, suggests that the progeny could take on, among other things, the ferociousness for which the Nile crocodile is known and all of the traits of the American crocodile, well adapted to Florida's climate. Native crocodiles are colder climate reptiles, unlike their tropical brethren, and their presence is largely confined to the southernmost parts of the state. Hybrids could adopt the Nile's strength across varying temperatures and thus be able to move further north into urban and suburban waterways that, up until now, were safe from crocodiles. This gene combination has the potential to create super crocs that would be not only highly powerful and ferocious predators, but also skilled and resourceful invaders. The range of the distribution of their presence would span human-inhabited areas such as Fort Lauderdale, Boca Raton, and possibly Orlando if they move that far inland. This expansion results in a substantial increase in the possibilities of human interactions with and conflict with the crocodiles, potentially creating a serious issue regarding the safety of the public that the conventional management of wild species cannot deal with. The divisions that maintained a distance between the native crocodiles and the Nile crocodiles would soon be erased by the overlapping habitats and environments. The climate changes, which would increase temperatures and affect habitats, would work to the benefit of the hybrid's survival and expansion. As the distance between different ecosystems narrows, the possibility of a genetically rich and stable ecosystem being transformed into a realm where new species-wide hybrids would determine the results would increase. The reproductive isolation of the crocodiles in the southeast United States would be due to the colder winters, but the Nile crocodile has gradually been inching its way north. But those barriers between the two species are melting away as their territories overlap, and the environment cannot easily drive them apart. The existence of hybrid populations poses a significant challenge for both conservation and eradication operations. The task of removing pure Nile crocodiles is already huge, with hybrids perhaps even harder to discern and manage. Their diverse traits mislead visual identification, reducing population monitoring to lessened precision. Such ambiguity minimizes the ability for wildlife agencies to respond in a timely manner or allocate resources effectively. In addition, hybridization threatens the genetic purity of the American crocodile, which barely holds on to survival in Florida as an endangered species. The influence of Nile crocodile genes can weaken restoration efforts while continuing to absorb the native population. The loss of genetic identity is not just a scientific issue, but also a cultural and natural heritage issue bound up with these native reptiles. As hybrid threats surge, the challenge of controlling these invasive crocodiles becomes an increasingly complex battle with no easy solution anywhere in sight. But what happens when these hybrid predators outsmart human efforts entirely, lurking unseen in vast swamps? Could eradication ever succeed? Effort and challenges in control. Ever since the discovery that Nile crocodiles are present and breeding within the ecosystem of the Florida Everglades, the challenge faced by the relevant wildlife management organizations is massive, namely, how to control, eliminate, or contain this harmful invader. In its effort to completely eradicate the species, the Florida Fish and Wildlife Conservation Commission established the policy to shoot on sight. Just how serious the threat from these predators is to the natural fauna as well as the human population is shown by the policy that all Nile crocodiles on site are to be killed on the spot. Nevertheless, the execution of such procedures on site has not been straightforward or easy. The Everglades is considered one of the most unapproachable and uninhabitable regions on Earth, covering an area estimated at 1.5 million acres of flood-edged sawgrass, mangrove tunnels, and blackwater rivers that are unimaginably ideal hiding sites for the shy Nile crocodiles. The region offers nearly impassable terrain that obstructs any patrols. Individual Nile crocodiles are very difficult to locate because the sheer dimensions and density of the jungle make these creatures vanish instantly. The strategies employed to either capture these crocodiles or eliminate them have had some level of success. Some of the known young crocodilians, caught in 2009, 2012, and 2014, were removed, but unfortunately, nothing has yet been found to indicate the existence of the initial breeding adults. The adults, large and territorial, probably remain to this day. giant, ancient creatures roaming almost unnoticed in the swamp. This evasive characteristic exemplifies the potential fact that complete destruction may prove impossible, utilizing currently available strategies and resources. In addition, the characteristics of these crocodiles compound the issue. They would rather stay away from humans, hunt nocturnally, and move silently beneath a dense canopy of vegetation. The ability of crocodiles to remain unseen under these conditions has made population tracking a gamble rather than a certainty. Simultaneously, the aggressive nature of these creatures has compelled scientists and researchers to exercise utmost care around them, making direct field research rather difficult. The danger of these crocodiles, as well, is constantly evolving. Crossbreeding between Nile crocodiles and American crocodiles may produce a more adaptable and aggressive species, perhaps rendering population management increasingly difficult. These hybrids can range into more northerly waters and canal systems, thus raising the stakes of a possible human interaction. The methods of control must now account for this evolving, increasingly complex genetic and geographic profile. The Everglades of Florida are threatened with an enemy much more lethal than any python, and this enemy is called the Nile crocodile, a force of nature much more potent because it has flourished here because of human error and now flourishes. The first step in overcoming this silent killer is understanding it, its habits, and its effects on the environment and on mankind. Thank you for this journey of discovery, and if this journey has been enlightening, then hit the like button and subscribe to learn more secrets of nature.